Alright, so welcome to the screencast for assignment 2, informative web page. I'm just going to kind of walk you through this overview. You may have looked at it already, but I can expand upon and elaborate upon what it says and explain some things. And so the little cartoon which I made with some lame clip art is just meant to show you and remind you of your audience. You know, your audience, as it says under the rhetorical situation, is people who are not experts on your topic. And so, you know, think of your audience as actually looking at your web page and actually using it to get information, maybe using a nicer laptop than that pizza box laptop. And so what you're doing with this assignment, I'm looking at purpose now, is you're producing a web page that provides detailed, well-organized information for a lay audience. You know, this lay audience, meaning a non-expert audience. You are an expert. Your audience is not. They're using your web page to get information, to learn something, to figure out something, to expand their horizons, whatever it may be. So you are writing on a topic that you have expertise in. And it doesn't have to be an academic topic. I mean, it can be, but it can be just, you can draw upon your expertise from your personal life, you know. And so you don't have to be the ultimate expert. You don't have to have a master's degree in the topic. This may be something that you have taught yourself or just have learned from your experience. So as it says, it might relate to your major. So it can be academic. It doesn't have to be. It can relate to a job you've had, a hobby you have, some experience you've had, and so on. And then the emphasis on the rest of that paragraph is about, you know, whatever your topic is, you have some sort of non-expert audience. So it might help to know some of the topics that have been written upon in the past. So last year's one student wrote about how to organize an event for a pre-K class, like a birthday party or something else. You know, how to manage that task. Someone wrote about insurance coverage, sort of providing a guide to people who are having trouble figuring out their health insurance coverage and all the different terminology and processes and so on. And that's because she worked as an insurance person. Someone wrote a guide to using a digital SLR camera to take nice photographs. Someone wrote about shopping for clothes online, something she had done a lot, of course. She had done that frequently and knew the ins and outs and the upsides and downsides and so on. Let's see. Someone wrote a very nice survival guide for parents who are taking their kids to Disney for the first time. Someone else wrote about, created a web page about the importance of teaching children to swim. Someone did a web page on study skills for college classes. Someone wrote a nice guide for young families who had just moved to BR and how to kind of find friends and find things to do for their kids and so on and so forth. So you can see there are a lot of possibilities, you know. So some of these students, well, let's see, did I mention? There was at least one student who did focus on a more academic topic, which was sensory activities and programs for low-functioning patients. Sensory activities and programs for low-functioning patients. Her audience was not low-functioning patients, but the activities would be for low-functioning patients. And her audience was, you know, people in the healthcare field, nurses and CNAs and such, home health nurses perhaps, who did not know a lot about this. They were already nurses or working in a healthcare facility, but they didn't know a lot about sensory activities and programs. All right, so anyway, there will be a topic forum for you guys to brainstorm ideas and so on, and you can always email me about a topic if you have a question. The way to organize the web page, this, you know, I'm asking you to carefully read the reading assignment by Olu, Broussard, and Allred, and they talk about organizing a web page using this inverted pyramid method, which you may have heard of inverted pyramid before. You know, wide at the top, narrow at the bottom, meaning start with the general and drill down to the more specific stuff. And they talk about chunking information and headings and subheadings, and all that is good advice. The length, you know, the body, the main part of the web page should contain approximately 1,000 to 2,000 words of text. And then there can be some, you know, supplementary stuff about who you are and so on and so forth, and other resources. We'll talk about that. Research isn't required. Depending on the topic, you might need to do some additional research, but you should not pick a topic that you have no expertise in and try to become a complete expert. You should feel that you already have some expertise, and maybe you need to do a little research to make sure you get things right or whatever. And of course, you know, again in the reading assignment they talk about documenting material from other web pages and so on, and it's important to use quotation marks if you're using exact wording from other web pages, and generally you want to avoid that, except maybe occasionally and briefly. And acknowledging sources, and that includes graphics. So again in the chapter they talk about documenting where you get your graphics. You don't have to have graphics, but a lot of people like to include graphics on a web page. And by graphics I mean photos and all those other things listed. Even just a table or a graph would be a graphic. So I'm looking here. They shouldn't just be decorative, your graphics. They should be purposeful. And if they're not created by you, in other words, it's not a graph or photo or drawing that you made, then you have to make sure you say something along the lines of this to indicate where it has come from, and to you know, acknowledge that source and make it clear it's not yours. So be careful about that. You know, wherever you grab graphics from, if you're grabbing it from other websites, look and see if they talk about whether you can do that, and if they want you to write to them to ask for permission and so on. The process is going to be essentially the same as the process we had for assignment 1. I'm calling the pre-writing a web proposal because that's appropriate to the assignment. The drafts that I talk about here are actually, you know, you submit them by sending me a link to, you know, your web page and the state that it's in at that point. And again, we'll do feedback from teammates on the proposal and on the web draft itself, and you'll get feedback from me, and you'll have the option of, once I give feedback and a grade, of making further changes. So the web proposal, there will be, if there isn't already, a screencast about the web proposal. That's your pre-writing. And again, I talk, you know, the web proposal doesn't have to be your only pre-writing. There are other things you can do to prepare for that web proposal or after finishing it. Drafting. The pre-writing helps you prepare to draft. The web proposal is not set in stone. Your web page may evolve slightly differently than you planned, and that's understood. You'll actually put the draft, as I said, on the web. And so to show someone a draft, you just need to provide the web address. And we'll go through revision, peer editing and revision, and I'll have an editing guide for editing, and so on. And then publishing is a step we're taking that we didn't exactly take with the memoir. This is going to be a live web page that people can actually look at, people you know or people you don't know, and so you need to create it with that awareness. I'm asking you to create an actual live web page that's easy to do, even if you haven't done it before. It doesn't cost any money. If you run into something that is asking you for money, use some other platform. I recommend Google Sites. If you have a Google account and you look at their list of apps, one is Google Sites, and I found it very easy to create a web page. I've done it using Google Sites, and then when you need to make changes, it's extremely easy to just go in and make the changes right there on the web. You don't have to use Google Sites. If you have something that you're accustomed to using already, that's fine. You know, the bottom line is you need to put up a web page. Let me know if you need help with Google Sites. You know, I recommend, it's, like I said, fairly user-friendly, so try it first, and whatever you have difficulties with, you can let me know, and I'll try to help you sort it out. Plagiarism risk assessment. So on every assignment I try to include this plagiarism risk assessment, because for every assignment there's different things that can happen that qualify as plagiarism. And so of course, if you want to create a web page about sensory activities or about teaching children to swim, obviously there are already web pages out there about those things, about just about any topic in the world. It's okay to look at those, to be influenced by them, but you shouldn't borrow heavily or steal from them, obviously. And I think you know that, and you wouldn't do that, but I gotta say it. And so be careful. Don't just cut and paste text or images from a website that's doing the exact same thing you want to do. You might see some strategy you can use, but anyway, I think you know what I'm saying. Also, the importance of documenting and acknowledging the sources of graphics and other things that come from existing web pages. And then I've got the section on integration that I also try to include with every assignment, because I'm hoping students will see this is not just an isolated experience, but it's one that relates to your prior experience, and it relates to Gen Ed goals for your degree that every degree includes, and then it relates to things you might do in the future. So in terms of prior knowledge, unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably put some words on the internet in some form or another, whether it's just through social media or doing other things. So you already probably understand the consequences of publishing. You know, it might not seem like publishing, but when you update your status on Facebook or put a caption on an Instagram photo, you're publishing. You're putting your words out in the world, and everyone can see them if they know where to find them. And so you know what that's like, even if you haven't created your own web page. You've also seen the kind of web page that you're to create. You know, even if your topic is the importance of teaching children to swim, you've seen a web page about syncing your iPod. Different topic, but with a similar purpose, right? For non-experts, meant to give information or explain something to a non-expert audience. And so I think you know what you're doing already. You got some experience you can use, and you'll just extend that. Gen Ed, of course, you know, this is a communication task, and there is one of the I forget how many there are, 5 perhaps, Gen Ed learning objectives that the college has. One of them relates to communication. Applying these skills in other contexts. You know, you're not doing this to improve your Twitter abilities so much as the possibility you might have to write for an online environment in your profession, or in your role in civic context, in other words, in your role as a citizen or as a parent or as a member of a church organization or anything else, or as a volunteer or someone doing service in the community, and so on and so forth. So I think this assignment gives you some preparation. Okay, so I'm going to end there, and of course I welcome your questions via email or any other format, and I'll be talking to you soon.